This is Basketball Bucksline from TNT Equipment for all your construction rental needs on 610 WTVN.
And welcome, as it is now tournament time. The regular season is over. The postseason begins with the basketball Buckeyes playing in the Big Ten tournament on Thursday afternoon. 12:30 tip-off against Indiana in what, if you believe the bracketologists, is a NCAA tournament play-in game to maybe get into an NCAA tournament play-in game, as the Buckeyes and Indiana are both squarely on the bubble. Ohio State with an incredible comeback yesterday from 23 down in the second half, 22 down with 7.5 minutes left to force overtime against Wisconsin. Even had a shot at the end to win the game. To no avail, though. Wisconsin ends up taking a deep breath and recovering and winning in overtime. Tony White, former Buckeye basketball captain, joins me. I'm Matt McCoy. And, Tony, first of all, your impressions of what you saw yesterday, the magnitude of the comeback, number one, and number two, the disappointment of coming all that way back and not finishing it off with a win that probably would not have you on the bubble right now.
Well, I mean, first of all, wow. I mean, coming back like that against a Wisconsin, I mean, you're down 23 points with 7.5 minutes left to go in that game against a team, Wisconsin, that takes the air out of the ball in every possession. They're going to use 33 of the 30, almost every second of the shot clock. And Ohio State is able to come back and tie that game. I mean, that was an unbelievable. If they had come back and won that game, it really would have been one of the greatest comebacks in Ohio State basketball
history. No question.
History.
Yep.
And for them, you got to give this team a lot of credit to come off the mat, and not just off the mat. Off the mat with Wisconsin's jackboot on their neck.
Yep.
On the mat. Get out of that, get up, and tie this game and have a chance to win it at the buzzer. That was one heck of a performance in that 7.5 minutes, and it showed this team has heart still. I mean, this team, they've taken a lot of body blows over the last 2-3 months, but they got heart. I mean, they're still a team that they got something in their chest that's thumping, and they're working to, they're trying. They're trying to get out there and get it done.
They're just limited,
yeah.
Especially when Caleb Wesson is not there.
Yeah, and they're limited by what they're able to do offensively, but they're giving it what they got, and they're not holding anything back, and they're not giving up. I mean, this team did not give up. I think Chris Holtman thought they gave up a bit against Purdue.
Yes, but
they didn't give up this time, and this is probably what he's saying is, guys, we didn't win the game, but this is what not giving up looks like. And probably giving them some credit for that.
Are you spending more time with them as they prepare for the Big Ten tournament? Well, first of all, how much time do you spend reviewing that game versus prepping for Indiana, number one? And number two, if you review the game, is most of it, this is why we dug that big hole, or is most of it, look at these last 7.5 minutes, guys, this is what we can be if we play with energy and enthusiasm that we need?
I'm betting that this staff is showing them clips of the last 7.5 minutes of this game, and they are treating the first 32.5 minutes like it didn't exist. Like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is what we can be if we do this. This is what we're doing right. Watch this play. See what we did right here? Bang, we made it. See, we can make shots. If we do this, we can make shots. And this is what we did right to get us to that spot of making the shot, and then you knock it down. Justin, way to knock it down. CJ, way to knock it down. This is how good we are. We can blow out a top 25 team in 7.5 minutes when we play the way we're capable. Forget the first 32.5 minutes. Remember what we can do in 7.5 minutes, and let's get out there and do that, more of that stuff. Mm-hmm. That is what's going on right now. Because this team, look, this coaching staff has been working on the things they don't do well all year, every practice. And now, at the end of the regular season, it's not really about getting better at what you don't do well, because you almost have to accept that.
Yep.
Now, it's about the mental side. It's the mental game now that wins or loses games. You're going to do those things generally, the same way. But can you overcome those things with the things you do well or the things you can do well? Can you go out there and do them really, really well because you're mentally dialed in? And that's right. That's where this coaching staff, I got to believe, is really focused on these guys. Focus on the positive, build them up, get them out there, and see what they can do.
If you have a comment or a question for us on Basketball Bucksline, you are always welcome. You drive the show, 614-821-WTVN, 614-821-9886, or 1-800-610-WTVN. And also, I already have several comments on social media. My Twitter handle, I always have my Twitter page open, is at Matt McCoy Radio. We'll start there. And I actually was just asking you about this when I let you in. But Colin on Twitter asked the question, love the way the Buckeyes came back, have no problem with the way C.J. Jackson played. I wish he would have taken the ball to the basket, though. What did you think of the final shot in regulation?
I mean, I'm fine with that shot. First of all, I'm not enamored with C.J. going to the rim. I mean, what we see when he goes to the rim is, we see him kind of missing shots in traffic, or that dumb teardrop shot, which I hate.
He makes 1 out of every 5.
Right, which is why it's dumb.
Yeah.
Instead of just pulling up and shooting a 6-foot jump shot, what are you doing with the teardrop? I hate the teardrop, at least from him. So I'm not enamored with him going to the rim. When C.J. Jackson is scoring, he's scoring from the perimeter. He's making shots from the perimeter, or he's making good decisions with the basketball and getting layups that are fairly uncontested. Nobody is getting an uncontested layup in the last seconds of a regulation game when the game's tied.
And the chances of you getting a call on that, it happens sometimes, but you have to get mugged to get a call.
And you have to be a much stronger guy going to the rim than C.J. Jackson. I mean, you got to go to the rim and be looking to dunk the ball to be able to get that type of a call. You're not going to get that call in that type of a game. So I'm fine. And plus, C.J. Jackson shot the ball well. He shot the ball well from the perimeter. So I'm fine with him taking that shot. I just wish he wouldn't have airballed it.
I actually thought it was a decent look. Like when he pulled up and shot it, I was like, he got a pretty good look. He got separation from the guy. He just
gagged.
He just missed it.
Gagged.
And we've seen him make a lot of those shots see the Indiana game, see shot clock beating shots. So I get it. I can second guess it, and obviously in hindsight, boy, I wish he'd have taken it to the basket. But I'm
just telling you, Matt. Look, the shot was not bad. It was not a bad shot. It was a good shot for him to take, especially with the way he was shooting that game.
The execution of it was bad.
But I'm telling you, the fact that he airballed that shot tells you something. As a basketball player, as someone who played at that level, when you see a guy who's had a good game, I mean, he had a very good game, if not excellent. When you see a guy airball a shot with nobody really on him, and it's just him in the rim, and 15,000 people staring at him and national television, and he airballs it, that tells you something about the kid, that he doesn't react well to pressure. And I'm telling you, that's one of the reasons why we see we see this team where it's at. Because remember, we talked at the beginning of the season, we talked about the one issue with this team was everybody had new roles. Everybody had to step up. Whether you're a freshman, you got to come from high school and step up and play in college basketball. But Andre Wesson had to step up into a new role, starting role. C.J. Jackson had to step up in a role where he's taking the laboring oar on a lot of scoring opportunities, and he's answering the pressure calls. And we didn't see him play that way, that consistently. That shot is another strong piece of evidence for basketball players. When they see a shot like that, how it went down with the air ball, it tells you the kid is not good with pressure. And that tells you why Ohio State's really in the situation it is right now. They haven't had anybody at the upperclassman level who has the ability to step up and make shots under pressure.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you on that.
Okay.
Indiana last year, he hits a buzzer beater that wins the game.
Yep.
We have seen him multiple times with the shot clock winding down, put up shots and have them go in. Sometimes I think his best shot are the ridiculous shots when they got nothing going. He's got to force it up. So I don't know if it's fair to say he doesn't react well under pressure.
2 points. First of all, a forced last-second shot on the shot clock or some circus shot like he made in Indiana
is not under pressure.
That does not count.
Because you don't feel like it's pressure because you got to shoot it.
And nobody expects you to make that shot. All right? So you got to get it off. So you got no choice. You got to get it off. Second, last year the shot at Indiana that he made doesn't count either. Why? Because he still has Keita Bates-Diop on that team. It's not nobody was saying to him, okay, CJ, get down there and make a shot for me. It's one thing
it
to
was
take
more of
the
a
shot.
transition. You got to do.
Right.
Yes.
It's one thing to take the shot and make it. It's another thing to know that everybody on the team and on the bench and your coach are looking at you to take the shot and make it. That is the pressure of that moment. It's not the taking. It's not leading up to that. It's not the actual shot that the pressure is. The pressure is the mental, oh my gosh.
It's the pressure of in the huddle, 29 seconds left. CJ, we're going to you.
Yes, exactly. CJ, look for your shot. We're going to be looking to get you. And it's the, oh my gosh, I got to make this shot.
This is on me.
And when you airball an open shot, it tells everybody who's been in that situation before, everybody who's been in that huddle before, and either looked at somebody else in that huddle like, you going to get this done? It tells everybody in that who's been in that situation that this guy doesn't handle pressure very well. And that was a big piece of evidence for me as to why Ohio State is in the situation they're in.
Okay, I've got several social media questions that I want to get to, but before we hit the break, we got a couple of people that are on hold that I'd like to get to first. Richard, thanks for waiting. You're up on Basketball Bucksline.
Fine, thank you so much. Hey, Tony, I thought it was poor coaching at the end of the game, and the reason why I thought it was poor coaching, you don't play to get even with the team, you play to get ahead of them. And as soon as you get even, you lose your momentum. You know, and you win in practice. And I've been watching the team. The last game I saw was the Iowa game. And watching these guys on TV, they look tired, Tony. They just look like they've reached their limit, like they need rest.
I don't know, Richard. What is the poor coaching though at the end? I mean, I agree. Of course, you get even. But you can only draw up plays and ask the guys to make a shot to give you the lead, and they never could get the lead. I don't know what strategy-wise could have been done. Oh, conditioning.
But why wouldn't it have been Aarons, who is a proven shooter? My point being is you don't play to tie, you play to win. If you want to play to tie, go home and kiss your sister. You got to have them keep going. And now they did it when what Tony said is what they did it when Andre Wesson set a pick for Jackson, got the ball, and he went in and dunked it to win the game. I mean, that was a grown man move.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But you see, but these guys are tired. And Jackson, I mean, I would have rather had Washington or Aarons taking that last shot. They're proven shooters.
All right. What do you think?
It just doesn't make any difference to me. But the one thing I asked for Tony, if he could explain, what is this thing about public ridiculing this kid, saying he's on probation, but not saying why? For some team rule, he didn't break any laws. What is it? Just seems so farcical to me that someone says, well, this is the proper way to act. We're dealing with 18-year-old kids. When I did something wrong when I played sports, you ran laps, and they laughed at you, and they keep running, and they made your teammates running with you, and you didn't want to let your teammates down. I think by the way coach handled this, he caused the last 3 games to lose. He broke their momentum. They didn't have the go-to guy there.
All right, Richard. We're up against a break. I want to let Tony comment though on this first. Thanks.
Well, first of all, Caleb broke athletic department rules, not team rules, and they're not giving details because they're trying to protect the kid, which I completely agree with. I mean, it's not. We don't need to know what the issues were. That's something they should keep it in the family.
Yeah, this is not Chris Holtman benching the team at the expense, benching a player at the expense of the team.
This is the athletic department saying he cannot play, and keeping it in house is exactly the way it should have done. I will say this: you talk about the coaching decisions at the end of the game. Ohio State got a wide open shot from their senior point guard who had 22 points in that game. That you can't coach You can't coach the situation any better than that. I mean, if you're expecting a freshman, 2 freshmen, no freshmen, Arns and Washington are proven shooters. Nobody's a proven shooter as a freshman, unless your name is James Jackson. And those guys were not in a situation to take that shot. Maybe they could have made the shot, but the best money was on C.J. Jackson to take and make that shot. And he took it. That's pretty good coaching to get him in that situation.
All right, Bob, we're going to take a break, so stay on hold. We have a bunch of social media questions as well. We're going to take a break right now and come back after this. It's Basketball Bucksline. Matt McCoy, Tony White with you till 8 right here on News Radio 610 WTVN. Matt McCoy, Tony White back with you. It is Basketball Bucksline. Ohio State, Indiana, in what may be a play-in game for the NCAA tournament in the Big Ten tournament. Thursday, it's the first game of the session. If Ohio State were to win that, certainly would improve their NCAA hopes. And then they would play Michigan State in the first game on Friday, the number 1 seed and the co-conference champions. And obviously, if they won that one, I think they would be off of the bubble. Yeah, does 2 wins get them off the bubble?
Yes. I mean, especially because they're your IU, which is, surging right now, and Michigan State, which is, a top 10 team.
Yes.
But, more realistically is if Ohio State needs to beat Indiana, and then they've got to stick. They can't get destroyed.
They got to play a competitive game against Michigan State.
I mean, because if you get destroyed against Michigan State, you're going to undo all the good stuff that you did against Indiana. But, look, that Indiana game is not going to be easy.
Oh,
Indiana,
gosh, no.
Finally,
Indiana has figured it out.
Finally.
They're way better than their record.
Somebody got the Rosetta Stone at the Indiana's locker room, and they finally have translated what Archie Miller was saying to them about exactly how to play the game, and at least in the last few games, they played a lot better. Now, I will say this week, they didn't exactly play, but I mean, it's been kind of, the weak sisters of the poor.
Correct.
But it came at the right time. They needed those wins against the weak sisters of the poor to get their wins up to the level they're at right now.
To be fair, though, I mean, it was Illinois and Rutgers, and those are both teams Ohio State lost to this year.
Which is, in my opinion, look, and I don't like to say this, but I'll say it anyway. I don't understand the bracketology thing that has Indiana out and Ohio State in. I don't understand that because when I look at these two teams and their resumes, I go, Indiana should be ahead of Ohio State.
I think they're looking at overall record. Ohio State's 18-13. They had better non-conference wins, I guess. And they have the same conference record, and head-to-head, Ohio State beat them at Indiana. I understand what you're saying.
I mean, I look at these two teams. And
right now, one looks like a tournament team and one doesn't.
And you don't even have to ask which one doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I don't get it. It's like everybody has their head in the numbers as opposed to pulling your head out and watch these two teams side by side and kind of get a sense of who the better team is. I think if you did that, unfortunately, it hurts me. But I think IU right now looks to be the better team.
Let's go to the phones. And Bob actually wanted to talk a little bit about the tournament. Bob, what's on your mind? Are you there, Bob? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. This is kind of what you're just talking about. If they beat Indiana this week and just play decently but lose against Michigan State, what do you think their chances are that they get in?
It's interesting. Tony, you were on with Joel this morning, and we talked a little bit about it. I think that they're in, provided, Bob, that things mostly around the country go chalk, meaning not a lot of teams that are out of the tournament winning their conference tournament and taking away at-large bids.
And I'll give you an example of that. On Thursday for ESPN Plus, I'm doing the MAC tournament, the first round of the quarterfinals of the MAC tournament, and on television. And the first game that I have is noon, the Buffalo Bulls against the winner of a game tonight. Nobody from the MAC is getting an at-large bid unless it's Buffalo. If Buffalo wins the MAC tournament, great. It's chalk.
That means only one. The MAC is a one-bid league.
It's a one-bid
Buffalo's
league,
in.
And Ohio State, Indiana spot is still available. If somebody beats Buffalo in that tournament, they're going to get the automatic seed. Say Kent State wins the MAC tournament. They're going. They wouldn't have gone otherwise. Buffalo's getting an at-large bid.
Yeah.
They're going. And that's going to push one team off the bubble. And that one team is probably – right now, Ohio State, Indiana, in that neighborhood. of being the team that's going to be pushed off. So Ohio State fans have to be watching these tournaments and be begging for chalk, because more bubble teams that win, Ohio State's out.
Yep. And if you are a bubble team, and thanks for the call, Bob, if you're a bubble team, no matter who it is, that's what you're rooting for this week is, you know, you don't want a team in the ACC that's out of the tournament or something like Pittsburgh or something to all of a sudden miraculously win the ACC tournament, because it screws everything
I'm
up.
serious. I expect a lot of eyeballs on the television on Thursday for the Buffalo Bulls game going, let's go. Let's go Bulls.
Yep.
Let's go Bulls.
No doubt about it. And that is a good basketball team. They have a couple of really good non-conference wins.
Yeah.
They at Syracuse beat Syracuse easily.
Win Ohio State at home.
Yep.
Got double-digit loss to Syracuse. Buffalo is a good squad.
Okay, a couple of strategic questions about the basketball Buckeyes coming up from social media, and we will get to those. I'm at Matt McCoy Radio if you'd like to chime in. Phone line's open again, 614-821-WTVN. Back after this, Basketball Bucksline on News Radio 610 WTVN.
Basketball Bucksline from TNT Equipment on 610 WTVN.
Matt McCoy, Tony White with you. Basketball Bucksline with you for another half hour. We're back, of course, next Monday when we'll know Ohio State's fate. Are they in the NCAA tournament? Are they in the NIT? Selection Sunday coming up.
God forbid. NIT. Oh, my God.
They may be headed that way. I know. Unfortunately.
I know.
And if they are, chances are they'll be, now the NIT is different than in your day where they used to select. Now they put brackets and they seed you. I would assume they're going to be a top 4 seed, which means they'll get a home game, which is fine, a home game or 2, which is fine, all well and good, but I don't know how many fans are going to show up to an NIT home game, Like if they play, a lot of times they like to match you up with like you mentioned, Kent State or something, like an in-state school or something like that. Many times in these situations, there's more fans of the other team like, all right, we get to play the big boys, than there are from Ohio State.
Didn't Ohio State lose one of those games a few years ago to like Akron or something like that?
They beat Akron in overtime.
That's right, yes.
They beat, and then they lost.
It felt like a loss.
Then they lost to Florida.
Right. It felt like a loss because you're in the NIT.
Yeah.
You're playing at home in front of there were 2,000 people in the stands, and you eke Akron in a tight game. It just felt like a loss.
Yeah. Eric on Twitter asked the question, it felt to me like the game changed when Ohio State went to the full court zone press. Why doesn't Holtman do that more often? It seemed very effective.
Well, because Ohio State is not a press team. First of all, I think, in my opinion, they look like a tired team. And if you're going to go out there and start pressing, with a bunch of young guys who who haven't been practicing this a lot, you're going to start making mistakes. And mental mistakes are going to lead to baskets, and it's going to snowball, and it's going to be worse than if you just played your regular defense. I think, look, down like 20-some points in the second half, what do you got to lose?
Right.
I mean, what are you going to lose by 40? Doesn't matter.
So it was more of a desperation move that worked than it was a strategic genius move.
It just struck me as Coach Holtman was trying to change something. The game was going in a direction where Ohio State was certain to lose, and he's going, we need energy. We need somebody to move around and to feel good. And when you watch Ohio State offensively, they're so stuck. I mean, there's not a lot of movement on the offense. Nobody's getting any penetration. They're not moving at a speed that makes you go, okay, I got to worry about this defensively. And I think that, after watching, so many minutes of that, Coach Holtman just simply said, maybe if I put them in a zone, that's going to change the dynamics of the game. And they're going to move a little faster. And what you saw, I thought, from Ohio State was that the players started they sped up. The game sped up for Ohio State, both offensively and defensively, as a result of them being in that. They kind of pulled themselves out of that mire and just started to speed their games up, and it got them more open shots. It got them some transition buckets, and then suddenly they got some confidence, and they got excited. Then the defense got even better because they were excited and jumping around.
Crowd got into it.
So I think it was a good call by Coach Holtman to do that. But it's not something where you go, okay, I've found the secret formula now, and we're going to play zone every game, all game, because that's just going to get you, beat badly.
Is it something that you may see them against Indiana or whomever, down the road, throw in as a curveball for a possession or two.
I'm going to guarantee you're going to see it against Indiana for stretches. A, because it just had success, and coaches, he's probably going, hey, well, why not? Let's try that again a little bit. Maybe that's going to juice us a little bit more in this game. B, Indiana, not exactly a lot of rocket scientists on that team in terms of basketball IQ. I mean, that's a team that can kick it around like a soccer ball with the best of them in terms of their ability to turn it over.
So you might be able to turn them over.
I think you can turn Indiana over with a cerebral press, because the three-quarter court press that Ohio State was playing to beat it, it's more a cerebral exercise than it is just a physical exercise. Full court press, you get the ball in, you break the double team, you get down the court as quickly as you can. How fast you are, how quick you are, what your passes are going to be like, you can beat it physically. That three-quarter court press, you beat that with your mind.
You have to know where you're going with the ball. Whoever gets the ball has to know where they're going with the ball.
And you got to know where that defense wants you to catch it, wants you to dribble it to, where they want you to throw it, and you've got to figure out a way to not do those things to beat that press. It's a very cerebral press offense that you have against that. Indiana, let's be honest, they haven't exactly shown that level of basketball IQ this year. I would say that you're probably Ohio State's going to throw a little bit of that zone on there and see if Indiana can handle it.
Kurt C. on Twitter. Chris Holtman is a tremendous coach. I do have to wonder about what's been happening late in the season. Their first halves have been terrible. Isn't that coach's preparation for the game?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Their second halves haven't exactly been terrific either.
In this past week, though, I brought this question up because they scored 17 points in the first half against Northwestern and then followed that up with 16 in the first half against Wisconsin. They missed their first 14 shots against Northwestern and their first 8 against Wisconsin. Now, I don't know if that's coaching or, they're missing their big gun for 3 straight games and, it affects how they come out and play. I don't know. What are you seeing early in games?
I've said it before. Gary Williams used to say all the time, we come off the timeout and say to a player, hey, I can't make it for you. I can only get the play together and called and get you in a spot to take the shot. But if you're going to miss it, that's on you. And I'll get somebody else in there who's going to make that shot. This is a team. I agree. They haven't come out of the locker room very well, but frankly, they haven't come out of the second half locker room very well in a lot of stretches. I mean, they didn't come out
yesterday
against Wisconsin.
I mean,
No.
If you want to know where the game got away, really, if they could have just kept closer contact the first 10 minutes of the second half, then that comeback is a lot less of a big mountain to climb.
This is not a team that has a coming out of the locker room problem. This is a team that has an ability to score problem, which is early in games, late in games, middle of games. It's all the games problem, and it's not something that I think you can coach a team out of. They either can shoot or they can't.
Here's one from Chris. Disagree with the earlier comment about what changed the game. What changed the game was Andre Wesson fouling out. He has been a liability more than he has been an asset.
Man. Andre ran over somebody's cat on the way to the game.
I think that's a little bit unfair.
No, I agree with that. I think Andre Wesson has had a good year. I really do. He's one of the, when you talk about guys who had to step up, Andre Wesson stepping up to a new role this year, instead of coming off the bench, being that defensive guy who nobody's really caring about whether he scored a lot, but he's going to give you good defensive minutes and give you, some solid play on the glass. He's a now starter, and going from the bench to being a starter, I've been there. That is a different experience, and the eyes upon you are expecting more from you. And I think Andre Wesson had a rough, a little bumpy start to the season as he tried to live up to that new role and those expectations. But I think he's settled in. Setting this week aside, this has been a tough week, but I think he's lived up in the Big Ten schedule to those higher expectations. I think he's had a good year. I think he's always a valuable guy defensively and on the glass. And I think, he's not been the problem for Ohio State because you're not expecting Andre Wesson to go out and score 25 points a game. You expect him to do what he's essentially been doing for the past couple months. And you expect everybody else, guys around him like C.J. Jackson, like Keyshawn Woods to step up and score those points, or Caleb Wesson. So Andre Wesson has done his part. He's not the reason why Ohio State's in the current situation they're in.
How much of Andre's struggles this week have to do with his brother being out? And I don't mean from an emotional standpoint, oh, my brother's out. I mean what they are asking him to do. Like all of a sudden, Matt Harms against Purdue, you got to guard him.
Yeah.
Ethan Happ, that is not, you're asking for trouble. And it's the right call for Chris Holtman, but you're asking a lot of a kid.
Well, that's right. And I think, so that's a part of it. The other part of it is that, he's an upperclassman. And, if you listen to this show, I've been talking about, when the upperclassmen going to step up. These guys know that. I mean, Andre Wesson recognizes himself as being an upperclassman whose job it is to lead this team. And so, Caleb's out. Keyshawn Woods is not playing so well. C.J. Jackson's not playing so well. Caleb's gone, and he's going, okay, I'm more pressure on me. I've got to do more. And that's how you lead to poor play. I mean, when you put that pressure on yourself to go out and do things that maybe you're not otherwise inclined to be able to do, that starts to affect all your game, and your play diminishes. And I think there's probably a big ingredient in that, where he went out there and put more pressure on himself to perform, because it's his brother too, by the way, who's out. And he's an upperclassman. He's got to make up for this, so he puts pressure on himself, and his game deteriorates. I'm hopeful that when Caleb Wesson comes back in the next game, that we're going to see Andre Wesson just kind of calm down, get back to that spot where he's scoring 11, 12 points and grabbing 6, 7 rebounds a game and making some good passes and playing excellent defense.
He can go back to the role that he's used to playing.
Right, and that'll be just fine for Ohio State.
Yep. All right, when we come back, Big Ten tournament again starting this week. Ohio State's had a lot of great moments. Do you remember the moment that happened 9 years ago tomorrow? We'll talk about that. And also look at the all Big Ten teams. Ohio State shut out of the awards. Get Tony's reaction to that. More of your comments as well. It's Basketball Bucksline on News Radio 610 WTBN.
They're going to go right to Turner.
Turner at midcourt, inside it, at the buzzer. Got it!
Are you kidding me, Dave O'Brien?
They will go to the monitor to take a look. Evan Turner at the buzzer.
That was 9 years ago tomorrow that Evan Turner hit that shot, and we are back on Basketball Bucksline as the Buckeyes prepare for the Big Ten tournament. They had an incredible run from 2009. They made 5 straight Big Ten tournament championship games and won 3 of them.
Yep.
That was a heck of a run that they had, and that was one of the key shots in it. I still will never forget that shot.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable shot. And, the run, we got spoiled, by the way.
Yes.
Because it was almost automatic that Ohio State was going to be playing in the Big Ten championship game. And it was almost automatic they were going to have a very good showing in that tournament and enhance their seeding to the extent that it does. Enhance their seeding in the NCAA tournament. Boy, the times they have changed.
They have. They have.
I mean, last year.
Losing in the first round of Penn State. And tough matchup this year.
And the year before that with, Tony White sitting
Rutgers.
with
you're right. They've got a 2-year losing streak in the first round.
I watching that game through the eye holes of the grocery bag I had over my head. I mean, that was a tough. That Rutgers loss was a tough one on a Wednesday too, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, me and a bum and 4 other people in the stands.
Couple of more questions on Twitter. Mitchell says, "What do you think Ohio State has to do to avoid playing in Dayton?" Well, one thing they could do is lose. Then they're not. They don't have to worry about it.
Don't have to worry.
I
about
assume
that.
He means
so I'm
making the field.
The Dayton Flyers. If they don't win the A10 tournament, they're going to be in the end. They're going to be in.
Maybe
the
that's
NIT.
one of the. We were talking about the
that's
NIT matchups.
Right.
Oh,
yes.
3 seed Ohio State against 6 seed Dayton.
Oh,
yes.
Man.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a possibility. But I would say this: the only way, in my opinion, if Ohio State beats Indiana, and then goes and plays Michigan State tough, I still think they're playing in the first 4 in Dayton. The only way I think they're going to be able to get away from that
is winning
is beating Michigan State. Is beating Michigan State, and that'll drag you out of that first 4.
They would maybe go from a 12, 11 seed to a 10 seed.
Yes,
and then you're not playing
right.
in.
And or just get you one of the 11 seeds that isn't having to play in the first 4. Something like that. That to me. That's the only way it's going to happen. So this team is looking at a lot of basketball in the next, 6 or 7 days starting on Thursday.
RJH 2018. Of the 3 big recruits coming to Ohio State next year, who do you think will have the biggest impact on the team? Those 3 big recruits, all top 50 players, 2 of them top 30 players, DJ Carton and Alonzo Gaffney. But DJ Carton, the point guard, EJ Liddell, power forward, Alonzo Gaffney, a wing forward.
DJ Carton, because this team is in desperate need of a guard who can penetrate and force defenses to move around. Right now, this team does not penetrate unless they're making post passes to Caleb Wesson. They have no ability to penetrate consistently and cause defenses to have to adjust and then kick the ball back out for open shots for guys who can just knock those shots down. They're a throw it around the perimeter team and throw up a desperation shot at the buzzer, of the shot clock. And so, especially without Caleb in there. With him in there, they penetrate through the post pass, and then Caleb makes a good pass out, which gives guys the ability to shoot. They need DJ Carton to come in here and be a freshman who can beat people with his athleticism. And then once he does that, pass it off, have the ability to pass it off without turning the ball over a lot.
We had the question early in the show about the last possession and wishing CJ had put the ball on the floor. Is that what you mean? Like Ohio State doesn't have a player that consistently can do that, and if they have a DJ Carton who can, we haven't seen him yet, right. But it changes the entire offense.
The closest thing they have is Dwayne Washington, who, by the way, can beat people. It's just his finish is not where it needs to be, and he's not a passer. Once he beats people, I mean, you can count on one hand probably the number of times he beat somebody and made a great pass out. He beats somebody, he's going to the rim.
Right.
And whatever happens. Luther Muhammad can beat people. I mean, that kid can shake people down and beat them. Problem is, once he does that, his decision-making ability has just gone all kablooey since January. I mean, he beats people, and he's got a highlight reel of crazy shots in the past 3 months that I hope somebody after the season or the coaching staff as a gag, they're going to put some of those together and say, boy, Luther, what were you thinking on all these shots? Because they're bad.
Real quick, all Big Ten teams came out. No Ohio State players, first, second, or third team. And the only honorable mention player is Caleb Wesson. Means that he got at least 1 vote for first, second, or third team. No all freshman team players. Any surprise at all in any of that from an Ohio State perspective?
Zero surprise at all. Zero. I think Luther Muhammad could have been named as an all-freshman guy. If that poll was taken in January, I think Luther Muhammad's on that list. The January through March that he's had, no, he does not deserve to be on that list.
Yeah. First team, by the way, Bruno Fernando, Cassius Winston, Lamar Stevens of Penn State, Carson Edwards, and Ethan Happ. Your Big Ten Player of the Year is Cassius Winston of Michigan State.
And I'll say this. Look, the Big Ten supposedly the best conference in the country. That's a pretty weak, first team. I mean, I look at that first team, I look at the second team and the third team, and I go, really? Best conference in the country? And those are the guys who are in first, second, and third team? They're good players. Not a lot of great players. I mean, not a lot of guys you're going to see drafted in the top 5, top 10 of the draft next year. You're going, boy, I thought this was a really talented, team conference. What I think the Big Ten has proven itself to be is a very deep conference. How good the Big Ten is, I think is still left for doubt. I really suspect that the NCAA tournament's going to show the Big Ten to be deep, meaning a lot of teams in the tournament, but not a lot of teams advancing deeply into the NCAA tournament, into the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. It just feels to me like this conference doesn't have that star power that you need to get you to that next level.
I agree with you. I think Michigan State was a team that could have had a deep run, but with the injury earlier this year to Joshua Langford and now Nick Ward, I just, Winston's great, but they just are losing 2 big guns that could have been difference makers.
And Michigan is starting to look like they're running in quicksand. They're not, their defense is still pretty good, but their ability to shoot the ball and make shots, I mean, they're not playing offensively at a level that makes you go, oh yeah, this is going to be a Final Four team. They'll play defensively at that level, but it's hard to win NCAA tournament games in the 50s. Yeah. It's hard to win them in the 60s. You get a team in there that starts popping threes, and they score 75 points on you. What are you going to do? I'm not sure that Michigan has the ability to consistently score at that level to stick with those teams.
Keys to the game for Ohio State against Indiana.
Well, first, let Indiana hurt themselves, because if you are patient defensively and you play a solid game yourself and force Indiana to play a solid game, a lot of times they're going to figure out a way to shoot themselves in their own foot. So give Indiana that ability to shoot themselves in their own foot. Ohio State has got to get Caleb Wesson involved in that game. He is the one thing, when you talk about matchup, he's the one thing that Indiana does not have an answer for. They've got to get Caleb Wesson involved early, and he's got to have a good game. Caleb Wesson's got to show up, realize that his team was 0-3 while he's out, show up with a little tiger in him, and play like this is the game that he gets to pull his team out and retribution for what the last 3 games have cost.
All right. Well, you are not going to get to Chicago for the Big Ten tournament until Friday.
That's correct.
Because you're doing the MAC tournament on TV on Thursday. So let's hope you get to watch Ohio State play.
I'm hoping to see some scarlet and gray out there that does not have an R called Rutgers in front of it.
Exactly. That's Tony White. I'm Matt McCoy. Hey, another great show with the interaction. A few of you, Joe, Amber, I did not get to your tweets. I apologize for that. We're back next week for Basketball Bucksline when we know the Buckeyes' fate. Thanks for joining us on 610 WTVN.